Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is a momentous occasion because this marks the day I start reading Solo Leveling. Continue reading. Reading Solo Leveling from Tapas. As many of you know, I took a break from reading Solo Leveling recently simply because I wanted to read from the official chapters moving forward on the places where the series is published. Both on Tappytoon and on Tapas. So, needless to say, I'm looking forward to reading Solo Leveling here on Tapas, one sole location where I can get all my manhwa. So now let's go ahead and get started. Let's get the formalities out of the way, shall we? Yo, peoples, Kyushu92 here, and welcome back to Solo Leveling. It is a good day. Gone are the days of Solo Leveling Wednesdays as we've known to read them in the past. But seeing as how I'm going to be reading from Tapas from here on in, all the episodes will be releasing on a Monday. Which means you guys will get reactions for Solo Leveling earlier in the week rather than the middle of the week. So let's go ahead and get started with today's chapter. Last we left off, if you will indulge me, the last one was Jin being notified that we have some individuals who are heading to the world where Jin is living. These individuals called Titans who go from place to place, well, basically planet to planet, consuming these planets of all of its energy, and they were pretty much kept at bay for a while simply because of the power of the rulers and the monarchs, but now they're coming back. Or at least they're drawn to the universe. They're drawn to the world where Jin is simply because his powers are the ones that's drawn them there. So just to give like a little bit of a recap from the last chapter, we have the military group that was there in the desert where the one hiker said that he saw like a crack in the sky, a dimensional crack, if you will. And of course, we have the people saying, "Never in my 30 years of researching extreme weather patterns have I witnessed such a phenomenon." Don't worry. No matter what comes out of there, we'll take care of it. I don't know why I'm giving any big high-ranking official from America a big old southern voice. I don't know why. Don't worry. No matter what comes out of there, we'll take care of it. And then one soldier looks around and notices that everyone is getting lifted up in the air, and we find out that it's Jin who's lifting them. Those weapons don't stand a chance against them. And now, the stage has been set. I can already sense the intense hunger of those enemies who wish to consume this world. The words will seem different simply because I'm reading it from an official Tapas site rather than reading it from Ashita scans that I've done in the past. The intense hunger of those enemies who wish to consume this world. They're breathing down our necks, ready to strike. And then Jin has multiple knives just come through portals and float around him. Come. Do your worst. The adversary standing before you now is at once a monarch and a hunter. And that is the end of the last chapter. So we move on to the next one. We get a little bit of a recap, and it shows those military guys who were floating in the air because of Jin's ruler authority. They all land on the ground with that same high-ranking admiral dude going, "What the heck is going on?" And then we see the dimensional crack that the hiker saw. It starts to open and the clouds start to form around it. Special episode 5. Not side story, but special episode. Original novel by Chu Gong, story by H. Goon, comic by Disciples of the Red Eye Studio. Oh boy. Okay, so we have the Titans coming through, and they look like they're covered in sort of chitinous type plating, like rocky plating, like plating's armor made out of rock, it would seem. And there's so many of them floating out of this portal, and then we see one with a giant mace, stone mace in his hands, and he has like this stony beard. He's like covered in stone. And he's ginormous. He might as well be as big as a mountain. That's how big he is. And we see Jin's size compared to him, and he's in the background. And Jin is just standing there with his dagger in hand. And then we have this, I'm guessing the Titans speak as he says,
What's this? Do you really think you can stop us on your own?
"Oh, but I'm not alone," says Jin. And we see his shadow start to emanate from him and cover the entire landscape. And then it shoots off in the opposite direction. And the entire canyon, Sung Jin Woo! The entire mountain range where Jin is right now gets covered in his shadow. It gets covered in his shadow. A far distance away from all of these titans. And then out of the shadows comes all of his soldiers. An endless amount. Like I see Tank. Oh, it's been so long since we've seen Tank. I see Tank. I see, what is his name? Tusk. And some of the other high-grade ogres as well. I see Baru and some of the ants. I forget the name of the lizard man that he changed as well. I forget his name. But we see so many soldiers, so many rulers turned soldiers floating in the air. The dragons that he created floating through the air. All of them are just covering this every single one of Jin's soldiers that he has is just covering the landscapes. Bellion, Baru, Icarus! All of them are just standing around Jin. This needs to be a disc plate. This whole panel needs to be a disc plate that just goes across the wall. This is an amazing piece of art right now. This is gorgeous! This is so good! And Jin is just standing there as the Titan is looking at him. And then Jin just, with a slight smirk, just says, "Let's do this." Hopefully I'm turned to the right. I hope I'm turned to the right way. Yeah, I am turned to the right way. I gotta move my mic. I gotta move my mic just a little bit. Yo, Jin! Jin looks so good! And he just says, "Let's do this." And then it cuts to the White House. It cuts to the White House. The President of the United States.
The sky suddenly shattered, and something started emerging from the cracks. Nothing like this has ever happened before. Should we really be handling this unprecedented event without breathing a word of it to the public? More importantly, is it even possible to eliminate these things? Is that true, Harrison? Yes, Mr. President. The situation has already been resolved. I'll explain.
Wait. What do you mean the situation has already been resolved? Jin just soloed all the Titans? What do you mean the situation has already been resolved?
Is that true, Harrison? Yes, Mr. President. The situation has already been resolved. I'll explain everything in the conference room. This footage here was taken by drones and robots that were stationed on site.
And they have clear view of Jin and his entire shadow army. Great. Now this is going to put paranoia in the heads that Jin is an enemy simply because he has an overwhelming force type army.
What on earth? Who's that guy standing in the middle?
He looks like a kid.
That boy! Who is that boy? Why don't I see any of our troops? And why is a civilian standing in the middle of all that, Harrison? That's what I'd like to know myself, sir.
As Harrison adjusts his hat. And Harrison is the admiral dude that we saw on site there earlier. But we see what happened during the fight. Tusk is using his magic to amplify and destroy a good portion of the Titans that were there with just like a big old Shin Godzilla nuke breath, and he still has the Orb of Avarice. He's never seen without the Orb of Avarice in his hand. But he blasts through an entire section of these Titans, and mind you, we see a whole bunch of these Titans just in the air, And he just cuts a big old line in between this massive army just floating in the air. And then it shows some Titans fighting some other. Remember, Jin also has some giants, some shadow giants in his army as well. So he has his shadow giants fighting against some of these other Titan giants, and they're clashing evenly. And then it shows Jin, who's beheading and slashing through as many Titans as he can as his numerous shadow soldiers are coming in and, just helping him clean house. But let's be honest here, Jin really doesn't need much help taking them all down because he's just casually cutting through every single one of these Titans as if they were nothing. And since he's using his daggers, but he's also using his supreme, and I want to say supreme control over ruler's authority to basically have all these daggers that's floating around him, just going around, cutting through all of these Titans. Just think Yondu from Marvel. And instead of whistling, he's literally just mentally controlling where these things go, and they're just slicing apart all of these Titans as if there were nothing. It's basically effortless for him. And then he takes his daggers and he envelops them in his own power, and they become giant swords. Literal giant spears and swords that envelop around him, and he just lifts his hand up with one dagger, and he just points in that one direction and sends all of these spears just careening through every single one of these Titans that are present here. This dude is just nonchalantly killing all of these Titans so effortlessly. Then it gets to the big head honcho who was here, and he's just watching all these daggers get close to him, and he does his best to defend himself against Jin.
Is that all you've got?
And he's looking and he sees Jin building up power in one hand. And Jin, his left hand, which is also the same hand where Antares gave him that one scar, it starts to get enveloped in his Shadow Monarch power. And then it becomes an even bigger hand. And it turns his small-sized hand into a giant shadow hand as he brings it crashing down on this big lead Titan. And this dude gets bodied into the ground. Like he turned it into the hand of Antares, didn't he? Because that looks like a dragon hand. That looks like the same hand that Antares had when Antares was in his dragon form. He just turned it into like a gigantic dragon hand and pins the lead Titan down on the ground and just drives him into the ground.
Who would have thought we'd find a mighty warrior on this tiny planet at the fringes of the universe?
But whoever this person is, apparently that big Titan body was just their own Susanoo, because we have another individual here, which means I have to change voices.
Oh ho. Who would have thought we'd find a mighty warrior on this tiny planet at the fringes of the universe? Yet the fact that you must expand your size with mana to tap into the full extent of your powers proves the rudimentary nature of your species. On the contrary, we Titans actually shrink upon exhibiting the full scope of our strength. Of course, only the best warriors among us, myself included, are capable of doing so.
And then we see who this actual Titan looks like in his shrunken down state. I gotta sneeze. Pardon me. So apparently, they get stronger the smaller they reduce their size. So when they're in their Titan forms, they're basically at their weakest. And this dude shrinks down to about Jin's size, and he's basically telling me that we're stronger here, smaller than we are when we're bigger. I'm getting some massive Boros vibes versus Saitama, because this dude is boasting about how we get stronger the smaller we get. So he's basically insinuating that I'm more powerful than you since I'm your size now.
On the contrary, we Titans actually shrink upon exhibiting the full scope of our strength. Of course. Only the best warriors among us, myself included, are capable of doing so. It's not too late to beg for mercy. Why don't you just...
And before he does anything, Bellion comes up and embeds... Bellion comes up and slices the dude's head off with his... He slices the dude's head off with his chainsword. Because, here's the thing, he's boasting to Jin, but Bellion, Icarus, and Beru do not tolerate disrespect to their lord and master. This dude was just boasting. I knew something was going to happen to dude. He was boasting way too much for him to actually put up a genuine fight. So we have the Grand Marshal, the most powerful shadow soldier in Jin's army, just comes up and basically, without saying a word, just says, "Shut up, you talk too much." He just cuts off the head of this dude.
It's not too late to beg for mercy. Why don't you just...
And then his head gets cut off by Bellion. Just instantly. The dude's head just gets cut clean off by Bellion in an instant. And then it cuts to Bellion, who jumps in. Is this my Bellion voice?
Hold on. Let me double check. Yes, it is. Pardon me, my liege. Were you in the middle of a conversation with that scoundrel?
Nah, actually I was about to tell you to beat their behinds even harder since they seem super cocky.
Ooh!
Consider it done, my liege.
I love every moment of this. Jin basically just says, like, nah, I was actually gonna tell you guys to beat them down even harder because they wanted to get super cocky, and Bellion was all like, consider it done. And then he just proceeds to just blitz through every single one of the Titans that's behind Jin in like an instant.
Consider it done, my liege. Skia!
And it just shows, I think it's his chainsword. He just takes his chainsword, and I think this is him. I think this is Bellion's chainsword, or this is or this is either Beru going through every single one of these. No, it was Bellion. Bellion and his chainsword, he just took his chainsword and whipped it around like hundreds of feet, and in the process is cutting through so many Titans in an instant. He was all like, consider it done, my liege. And he just, in one fell swoop, just cuts down numerous Titans. And mind you, this is still the U.S. team. This is still the U.S. government watching all of this stuff go down. And they're all speechless.
Have you determined that boy's identity?
And obviously, Harrison says, no.
He's playing with those monsters like they're toys. This is something straight out of a movie. Has the CIA found a way to uncover the identity of that boy?
And then someone says,
well, that would be rather impossible. Realistically speaking, that is.
David Brennan, director of the CIA. The director basically says, realistically speaking, it's impossible to identify him.
Well, that would be rather impossible. Realistically speaking, that is.
David Brennan, director of the Central Intelligence Agency.
So why don't we try using an unrealistic method instead?
What are you talking about?
As I'm sure you're aware, there is one person who has consistently used supernatural means to reveal the unknown to us.
You don't mean...
That's right. I'm talking about Miss Norma Selner. She will show us the answer, just as she always has in the past.
So, Lady Selner, still has her prophetic abilities, even being in this brand new world that Jin is a part of. Sorry, my eye was itching. And we cut to the National Youth Track Championship preliminaries. And we got Jin, who's standing with his track team, and he looks absolutely awestruck as there's this... as Jin is looking kind of surprised to see someone. And then we have some other individual who's standing off on another end of the field. And it's this big, bulky guy with kind of lavender-looking hair, or gray hair, I think. And it cuts to his captain going, "Hey, Kim Jewel, focus, will ya?" "Yes, Captain." And then Jin is just watching. Jin is watching as he goes,
Iron?
"Yo, okay. So so the person that would later become Iron in Jim's army is standing in front of him right now." Apologies, Kenzo really wanted to be a part of the conversation, and he don't know nothing about solo leveling. But apparently, the individual who would become Iron in Jin's army is standing right in front of him at the track and field championship preliminaries. To be continued. That's the end of the chapter. All right, so let's just go over what we've encountered in this chapter, and then I'll call it a session because I got to meet up with Gajil and because we need to talk about some things. So the Titans invade Jin's world, and Jin and his entire army body all of them. These consumer of worlds, these eater of planets, going from one planet to the next, draining it of energy, consuming everything, came to the wrong planet and got bodied by Jin. So, show of hands, who was literally surprised from this outcome? Nobody. I can tell y'all right. I can tell you that right now that absolutely none of us were surprised by this outcome. And what makes it even more humorous is the fact that when he took down the lead Titan, the big, gigantic lead Titan, they go on to say, like, oh, we get stronger the smaller we get. And the dude who's boasting about how powerful, his full strength when he's shrunken down, when he gets down to the size of Jin, is immediately cut short, because Bellion is like, "Excuse me, sir, but were you still talking to this individual who was trying to be cocky to you? I apologize if I cut his head off too quickly." And Jin was all like, "Nah, I was intending on eradicating every single one of them just because they wanted to act cocky." And then he just gives all of his soldiers permission to just body the rest of the Titans. Effortlessly. Mind you, we don't see every single thing that happened to the very conclusion of the battle since we cut. That's basically a flashback at this point. Because when Harrison, the admiral-looking guy that was there on site when the dimension opened up for these Titans to come through, he's basically telling the president of the United States that, yeah, the matter's already been resolved, so there's not much else we can do. And they're really trying to find out who Jin is. Not that finding out who he is going to really do anything when you think about it. Because one, the man is immortal. And two, he's pretty much the most powerful being that exists on the planet Earth as it stands right now. Possibly one of the most powerful beings that exists within the entire universe. Let's just be honest here. Because it's his power that the Titans were drawn to when they first came to Earth. So I don't know what the U.S. is thinking they gonna do to Jin, of all people, if they were to find out who he was. The man is still trying to take part in track and field in the hopes of running into Cha Hae-in. But he's already here at track and field, after all has been said and done, and he's shocked to see the individual who once became Iron when he died back in his original world. Previously. And he's shocked to see him. Because if I remember correctly, Iron tried to kill Jin. The man who used to be Iron tried to kill Jin. because they got stuck inside of that double dungeon with those homicidal ice elves. And the dude, I think his name is Kim Chuil, I think. Hold on. Let's look this up real quick. Not the Iron Body Monarch, because he already got bodied. Kim Chuil, yeah. So basically, yeah. A rank hunter, White Tiger Guild. Yeah, he did try. Okay, so yeah, I was right. He did try to kill Jin because he basically went insane after witnessing his entire squad get slaughtered right in front of him when the Ice Elves pretty much just massacred everybody. So yeah, last time Jin saw Kim Chuil, Kim tried to kill him. Because it says right here, this character, due to his vanity, Chuil could not own up to his own mistakes, even when people died from them, as displayed when he blamed the deaths of his squad members on circumstantial factors instead of his poor planning and leadership skills. Because if you remember, and I remember this, when they were in the double dungeon with the Ice Elves, Jin was suggesting, like, we shouldn't do this. This is a bad idea. And Kim, being the vain individual he was all like, well, you and this group can stay here. Me and the other group are going to press on, and we're going to take down this dungeon, and then we'll be the ones to reap all the glory. And because of his own personal incompetence, he got his entire squad slaughtered, with him being the only one left, which also drove him insane, and Jin had absolutely no choice but to kill him. Because he also threatened to kill all of Jin's group simply because Jin's group was surviving. Everyone in Jin's group survived. But Kim's group basically died off because of his incompetence. And he tried to kill Jin simply because they were better prepared over him, which is something that he couldn't allow because I can't have you being better than me, so I'm going to kill you all. And a mistake that ultimately cost him his life. So for Jin to see this person who went insane originally, after all this time, it's probably going to be interesting to see and possibly interact with him. Because out of all the Shadow Soldiers that Jin has created, Kim is the only one that he created after seeing this person go insane and try and kill him. Now, I'm not going to put in Dong Su in here, simply because he didn't go insane. He just had a massive vendetta that he still lost his life to, and thus eventually got turned into the new Shadow Soldier, Greed, which we really haven't seen Greed all that often. Can we talk about how we don't see Greed all that often? I don't even think we see him in this chapter. Like, you see Beru, you see Igris, you see Tank, you see Iron. Wait, I don't even think you see Iron in this as well. But we don't see Greed all that often. But to see Kim Chuil in this new world, I'm pretty sure it brings back some bitter memories. But all in all, this was a good chapter. Seeing Jin just body every single one of them. Yeah, it was good. It was worth it. It was worth the wait for me to wait for the official chapters to drop on Tapas just so I could read it to all of you. But this was a really good chapter. And I hope you guys all enjoyed. As you guys know, I'm only going to be reading these chapters from Tapas, so whenever Tapas sees fit to release these chapters, which will be every Monday, I will be reading them. Solo Leveling is officially back on the channel after taking a break for about a good solid week. So yeah, I'm happy to be reading this story to all of you guys again, and continuing where we left off since I don't read from Ashita Scans anymore. But that's all I got for my reaction. This was a superb chapter, yet another display of power from Jin. Literally see him using lightsaber combat with his own daggers, and he's cutting down so many of the Titans, and then using his own Shadow Monarch power to enlarge these daggers and cut down multiple Titans without any resistance. It's just effortless. Everything is just so effortless for Jin right now. But you don't get bored of it because you love to see Jin succeed. Also, the CIA is probably intending to use Lady Selner of this world to try and track down and find out who Jin is. And given what she saw when she first met Jin was just a pit of darkness, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the same outcome we get with this. But my thing is, I really hope that the US don't think they're going to be able to do something to Jin. Because you know how it is with paranoia. It's better to find out how to kill something you don't understand than try to understand it. I really hope they don't develop that mentality, because if they try to fight Jin, they're not going to survive. Just saying, they have video evidence of what will happen if they try to take on Jin. I mean, you have to be an idiot. This is America. Never mind. We'll just have to see what dumb thing they come up with next. Here's the thing. As a person who lives in America, I know how dumb we as Americans can be. Especially when it comes to the unknown. So I really hope that Jin doesn't hurt the US too bad if they try to go after him. I'm just saying. We'll see. We'll see. But I'm done. I'm done with my reactions, ladies and gentlemen. If you guys want to see where I'm reading from, either go to any other place that has solo leveling on it. I'm pretty sure if you're not the type to want to pay for ink for solo leveling, a simple solo leveling search in your search bar will give you any results, just in case you don't want to pay for Tapas like I do to see what I'm seeing, though words will be different since the translator team tends to be different from between Ashita scans, for example, or Tapas. But as I always say, support the official release. So to everyone here, as we approach like 32 minutes, I didn't think it was going to be this long, but I'm glad you guys stuck it out. I appreciate every single one of you. This channel is getting closer and closer to 4,000 subscribers, and that's a substantial number, and I have every single one of you to thank. You really have made this job of mine absolutely amazing to wake up and do every single day, and I'm just thankful to have people like you who enjoy what I do, who tell people about what I do here, which, turns this into an even bigger channel. I'm just very grateful for all of you. So to everyone here, all I can say is, first, thank you. And secondly, hope you all enjoyed. Can't wait to see you all in my next video. And if you're new to the channel and you enjoyed what you saw here today, then like, subscribe, share this stream with everyone you know, because the more the merrier. And maybe even consider becoming a member, because I am always looking forward to entertaining you. So have a fantastic day, and once again, as always, later, peoples.